So joining me now is my friend and good friend of the show, Tom Harris from the International Climate Science Coalition Canada. And last time Tom was on the show, he was talking to me about normal people turning up at public debates for local politicians, because where a lot of these majorly expensive climate change policies are coming from is not from the federal government. It's coming out of municipalities that are being infected with World Economic Forum and UN garbage. And Tom was telling us about the successes of normal citizens turning up at these debates. Now the municipal election has come and gone in Ottawa, and thankfully, the climate alarmist, lockdown alarmist, anti-convoy candidate, Catherine McKenney, who is running for mayor, has lost. I thought we could bring Tom back on. We could talk a little bit more about the successes that unfolded there to get, I think, a more reasonable. I don't know if I would agree with your new mayor on very much, but he seems at least reasonable. And then we'll talk about the latest UN climate change conference that's coming up. And that's usually where Tom and I meet, but neither one of us are going this year. So Tom, thanks for being patient with me through that big, long preamble. Let's talk about the Ottawa election. Tell me who won and why you think they won.
Yeah, exactly. Back in July, Catherine McKenney, who is a current councillor in the council until November 15th, that's when they have the switchover, she was ahead, significantly ahead. And now her support was only in the 30s, but all of the rest of the candidates were splitting the vote. So it looked very likely that she was going to win the election with a high 38%, something like that. And in fact, over the time period between July and the final election, her actual vote count slightly rose. Okay, so she kept her solid supporters, and they did vote for her. But a very interesting thing happened. Mark Sutcliffe, who was a previous radio announcer with CFRA here in Ottawa, he actually was quite far behind her until just a few weeks before the election. And what happened is there were two things. First of all, there was a huge percentage, something like 30% undecided. Okay. And they apparently all switched to Sutcliffe. The other thing that happened is the third, fourth, and fifth candidates lost their support to Sutcliffe. And I think what happened is that Catherine McKenney scared people so much with her loony plans, and I'll talk about that in a second,
please,
that people, even in my own family, for example, they had their own favorite candidates, Professor Cadre or Maguire, all sorts of people. But they finally realized, holy smokes, if we don't vote for the only candidate that might beat her, she could very well win the election. And so when you actually look at the numbers, and I plotted them not only in a graph, but I also plotted them over time to show how the change in other support just went to almost zero. Okay, almost zero. Even Shirelli went down to about 5%.
Yep.
Cadre lost his support. Singh went from something like 7 or 8% to practically zero. Okay, and what happened, I think, is all of these people who were supporting these third, fourth, and fifth candidates suddenly said, "Oh my God, this Catherine McKenney is going to win." And so they all voted for Sutcliffe, and Sutcliffe ended up getting more than 50% of the vote.
Yeah.
Okay. And he beat McKenney by, 14% or something. So that was a huge change. I think the polling was correct. I think the polling showing that McKenney had the lead consistently was right. But I think that her plan just scared people so much. Now, there are two parts of her plans that are actually of a concern. And ICSC actually has been publicizing the terrible Ottawa climate plan, the $57.4 billion climate plan. But the thing that she did also is she really promoted bicycle paths. I'm not kidding. She said that she was going to spend $250 million on bicycle paths. And it's interesting because Mark Sutcliffe did something very smart. He figured out, okay, all that money would have to be borrowed because Ottawa was miles in debt. So what would be the interest charge over, let's say, 10 years? And he calculated that the final cost of the bicycle paths would be about $400 million. Now, it was interesting because she was not only being attacked by Sutcliffe on this point, but she was being attacked by Ade Olamide. Okay, he didn't get a lot of support, but at the same time, he brought up some really good points. He said, look, we have a city that has a waiting list for drug rehab centers.
Yes.
We have people living under bridges. And you're going to spend, $250 million or maybe 400 million on sort of Cadillac bicycle paths. I mean, it's completely crazy. And I like to think that our group played a major role in educating people about what would happen if they really did what she wanted to do. 710 industrial wind turbines. And one of the things, I worked with a few volunteers behind the scenes before the debate started to talk about, okay, what are the important questions to bring up? Because typically when they have public debates, they just get softball questions, things like, well, how can we reduce greenhouse gases even more? Can we actually bike in the winter? Things like that. So what we did is we got together and we spoke about, okay, what would really impact Ottawans in this plan? What's really important? Okay. And we chose different topics, and we actually, different people chose topics that would fit their personality. And it was quite interesting because, for example, a French-Canadian lady, she decided to talk about the child mining in the Congo for cobalt to make the batteries for electric vehicles. And she said, I am a mother and a grandmother, and I do not want this to happen. Should Ottawa be doing this? And, none of the people on the panel, especially McKenney, had any clue about this issue. It was totally, they were totally caught flat-footed.
Oh, hey, what you just saw there is a clip from my weekly full-length show, The Gunn Show. It airs on Wednesday, but this is the internet. You can watch it whenever you feel like. You just have to become a subscriber to our paywalled premium content. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com to become a member today.